Welcome back to New York City. Dan Leach here with you. We're at the Benzinga Fintech and FODA conference, having a great time. And it's going to get better because we're talking to Chris O'Brien, partner at Venable LLP. I'm serious. It's already better just being in your presence, Chris.
That is very kind of you.
Well, we're in a very fascinating time, not just in the general, world time, but in the industry of digital assets and obviously financial tech. You're someone that's been around for a long time doing this. You look very young, by the way. But
You're a very kind man.
I only speak the truth. Let's talk about what you guys do at Venable, but also where we're at as an industry, because it's very important that people understand where we're going as well.
Right. Great question. So Venable is an AmLaw 100 firm, meaning we're one of the 100 largest firms in the United States. We're a full service firm. We've been around for over 100 years. I think we're about 850 lawyers. We're headquartered in Washington, D.C., which is important for purposes of this conversation. I'm in Los Angeles, but we're in every major city in the United States. We're a full service firm. We cover the waterfront. I'm a corporate lawyer by training, but we have litigators, private wealth people, bankruptcy people, a large group in DC that takes care of public policy and lobbying stuff, and everything else you can imagine under the sun. I've been in this industry in crypto since 2016, which is a long time ago for big firm lawyers. There really weren't that many big firms that were involved and saw crypto as an industry of the future, which we did back in 2016. We've been involved in every aspect of the industry, and we've been following very closely the legislation that came through Congress last year, got through the House, didn't get through the Senate, which was expected. And now we're looking at what's coming for the future with this election cycle.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Obviously not being divisive at all. We're stating facts. Donald Trump's president-elect. Obviously the thought is very pro-crypto, legislation could be coming its way forward. What are your thoughts on that, and where do you see this possibly maybe really helping the industry grow even more?
Yeah, it's been a fascinating evolution, because if you dial all the way back to the beginnings of the industry, when people really started to pay attention to it, and you could call it an industry, 16, 17, 18, I think the industry was in a less developed stage in a lot of ways, including viewing regulation as the enemy. There was a lot of desire just not to be regulated. You can't understand our tech. We're something different. Shouldn't have anything to do with Washington, D.C. And that wasn't really a mature way to look at it. And the industry's changed a lot since then. And I think we're at a point where the industry wants clear regulations. Clarity is the businessman's friend. Ambiguity, and particularly when it comes to what's legal and what isn't, really isn't a friendly environment for business. It's a difficult environment. So the industry's wanted clarity. It's objected to the enforcement regime by the SEC and to a certain extent by the Justice Department. And in fairness to the industry and the regulators, I think, the law is written in 1933 for the securities industry.
It's a little out of date.
A little out of date, focused on the right things,
Sure.
Anti-fraud and protecting small investors. But a little out of joint with a tech where it's been impossible for exchanges to list, very difficult for issuers to list and comply with the law, very difficult to imagine tokens that can trade millions of times a day really fitting within the existing systems of trading securities. And a lot of ambiguity as to whether the very definition of securities was a good fit for a lot of what was going on in the industry. People want clarity. The industry got very involved in this election cycle. It's hard to overstate that. I was trying to think of an election cycle where one industry was benefited as much as the crypto industry might be benefited by an election result. And I couldn't think of one really.
We saw that with all the crypto start chasing the sky as soon as the results.
You saw the bump in crypto pricing. We'll have to see what emerges, but President-elect Trump appears to be very bullish on crypto. He's a crypto entrepreneur himself now. The Congress was a sweep, obviously, for Republicans. You're still going to need 60 votes in the Senate, right? Because there's a filibuster. But I think there are 8 Democratic votes there, at least, for some kind of sensible regulatory approach, which I think will be probably industry favorable. But, there are two sides to the spectrum. There's innovation and financial freedom, and then there's looking out for small investors, anti-fraud. And I think you'll see both of those represented. Maybe the mix will be different than it would have been had the election been different.
Sure. And if I can take you back, Chris, you mentioned you've been involved with crypto specifically since 2016. What have you seen going back from there to where we're at now? And then let's spin it forward 10, 15 years. Could we be on a path to all digital everywhere? Paper's gone. And obviously it might take a little longer for that to happen, but what do you see the future holding?
Well, it's a fascinating question. I think the issue specifically in crypto is, when are we going to see the breakthrough companies? When are we going to see, if I analogize back to the internet, the days of the internet, you're old enough to remember that. Where's the Google, right? Which revolutionized search. Not the first search company, but it revolutionized search. We all use it. Where's the Facebook, which didn't invent social media, but it did turn social media into a thing? We haven't seen yet the public clamoring for a crypto-based solution. We haven't seen that yet. We haven't seen those killer companies. I think a lot of people in the industry would say, well, we've been held back because of the legal overhang, because the general public wasn't allowed so much to hold cryptographic tokens, and the network effects of the industry or the technology weren't allowed to fully flower. We haven't seen that. Well, now we can test that. We're going to test that in the next couple of years as we get, I think, regulatory clarity. We have more companies that are able to do their business the way they want to do them. We see the exchanges, hopefully, being able to do their business, and then we'll test the proposition. And I think success will be companies using crypto solutions that the public really wants. Could be businesses, sure. Could be business-to-business solutions or business-to-consumer solutions. We'll see. But when you remember the days when we used to go to the grocery store and you'd get a CD with AOL time on it, right?
I had probably 3,000 of those.
They were at the end of the bin, but you'd grab them, right?
Yeah, 300 free hours.
Right, right. The public wanted it.
Right.
They were even willing to go to the grocery store and grab those CDs to put into their computers to use it. When you see the public asking for a solution that's a crypto-based solution, then we'll cross over from a broad but relatively niche market into acceptance and fulfilling needs for the general public. And that's an inflection point.
Just beautifully said. And like the kids like to say, what a time to be alive. Chris O'Brien, managing partner at Venable LLC. Such a pleasure talking to you. And I think that we got some big times ahead of us.
Thanks so much. Really appreciate it.